The dying light, the crystalline towers of Valoria, had once caught the light of their twin suns, scattering rainbows across the silver sky. Now they caught only fire. Nessa Varian pressed herself against the cold stone wall of the underground shelter, listening to the thunder of orbital bombardment shake dust from the ancient ceiling. Around her, families huddled together, their luminescent skin dimming with fear. Another transport destroyed. Someone whispered in the darkness, "We have nothing left." Nessa closed her eyes, fighting back despair. She was only a junior diplomat, barely 20 cycles old, thrust into leadership because so many of her elders had already died. The Calathi had spent centuries building a civilization based on art, philosophy, and peaceful trade. They had no weapons that could match the Drex Dominion's warships, no warriors to stand against their brutal soldiers. High Speaker Oranus appeared beside her, his aged face creased with worry. "The signal has been sent," he murmured, "to 12 nearby systems. Perhaps someone will answer before—" The shelter shook violently. Screams echoed through the chamber. Nessa grabbed Oranus to steady him, her heart hammering. This was the end. They had run out of time. Hours passed in terrified silence. Then, impossibly, the bombardment stopped. Nessa's communication device crackled to life with a voice speaking in broken Calathi, accented strangely. "This is Commander Jace Holt of the United Earth Fleet. We received your distress signal. Hold position. We're coming down." The shelter erupted in confused murmurs. Earth? No one had heard of such a place. But Uranus gripped Nessa's arm with sudden hope. Someone answered. He breathed. Nessa climbed the ladder to the surface access hatch, her diplomatic training overriding her fear. She had to greet their rescuers properly. But when she emerged into the smoke-filled air and saw the ships descending, her breath caught. They were not elegant vessels like the Calathi merchant ships, nor sleek like the Drex warships. These were brutal angular craft covered in armor plating and weapons. They landed with heavy thuds that shook the ground, their engines roaring like beasts. The hatches opened, and figures emerged in powered armor that gleamed with weapon systems. Nessa's skin paled as she realized what she was seeing. Warriors. Not diplomats, not traitors. Soldiers built for war. Commander Jace Holt stepped forward, removing his helmet. Nessa found herself staring at a face unlike any she'd seen. Strong features, intense dark eyes, skin that bore small scars like badges of survival. He was tall, broad-shouldered, radiating controlled power. "Are you the leadership?" he asked, his voice firm but not unkind. I am Nessa Varian, junior diplomat," she managed. "Our high speaker is below. You came. You actually came. You called for help." Jace's expression was unreadable. Earth doesn't ignore distress signals. "Where's the enemy?" "Still in orbit. Their ground forces are sweeping the northern continent. But, Commander, we should negotiate. Perhaps if we offer—" "No negotiation." Jace's voice cut through her words like a blade. "Dr. Solon, start triage on the wounded. Captain Marks, I want a full tactical assessment in 10 minutes. Secure this position." The humans moved with practiced efficiency that made Nessa's head spin. A woman with kind eyes and medical insignia approached her. "I'm Dr. Mira Solon. Take me to your injured." "You don't understand," Nessa said desperately, looking between Mira and Jace. "The Drex Dominion has hundreds of ships. You're just—" Jace's expression finally shifted, a slight smile touching his lips. It wasn't comforting. It was predatory. "We know what we're doing. Now show us where your people are hiding. We've got work to do." As more humans poured from the ships, setting up defensive positions and weapons that hummed with barely restrained power, Nessa realized something that sent chills through her. These weren't rescuers offering sanctuary. These were warriors offering something far more dangerous. They were offering war. Clash of understanding. The command center hummed with activity that would have seemed chaotic to Calathi eyes. But Nessa was beginning to recognize the pattern in humanity's apparent madness. Holographic displays showed Drex positions across Valoria, red markers like a disease spreading across her world's surface. Commander Jace Holt stood at the center, his jaw set as he studied the tactical data. "They're regrouping here," Captain Rinmark said, pointing to a cluster of enemy forces. She was smaller than Jace, but moved with the same coiled intensity, her short auburn hair barely contained under her flight cap. 3 battalions, heavy armor. They think we're just another weak species." Jace's smile was cold. "Let's educate them." Nessa watched from the corner, still struggling to process what she'd witnessed over the past 2 days. The humans had transformed the ruins of Valoria's capital into a fortress. They didn't ask permission, they simply acted. Galathi survivors were given food, medicine, and weapons training. That last part troubled Ambassador Torin, the elderly peace negotiator who'd arrived from the southern shelters. "This is not our way," Torin protested, his luminescent skin flickering with agitation. "Violence only breeds more violence. We should contact the Drex commanders, offer terms." "They don't want terms." Jace didn't look up from his display. "They want your world as ash and your people as slaves." "I've seen 100 reports like yours, Ambassador. The Drex don't negotiate, and you do?" Torin's voice rose. "You arrive with weapons and warriors, speaking of education through violence. How are you different from them?" Jace finally turned, his dark eyes meeting Torin's. The room fell silent. "Because when we're done, your people will still be alive. When the Drex are done, you won't. That's the difference." Torin left in frustrated silence. Nessa found herself staying, drawn by a fascination she couldn't quite name. As the other officers dispersed to their duties, she approached Jace carefully. "You're very certain of yourself," she said, softly. "I'm certain of what happens when predators aren't stopped." He pulled up a holographic image, a planet reduced to barren rock. This was Talvos 4, 3 million people. The Drex hit them 2 years ago. By the time anyone responded, there was nothing left but graves. Nessa's skin paled to near white. I didn't know. Most peaceful species don't. You build beautiful civilizations based on trust and art." Jace's voice softened slightly. "There's nothing wrong with that. But someone has to stand between you and the things that would destroy beauty. That's what we do. Why?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "Why would Earth sacrifice for strangers?" Jace was quiet for a moment, studying her face as if deciding something. "Come with me." He led her to the observation deck as the sun set over Valoria's scarred landscape. In the distance, smoke still rose from burning cities. Jace leaned against the railing, his armor reflecting the dying light. "Earth is a death world," he said finally. "Everything there tried to kill us for millions of years. Predators, diseases, weather, other humans. We learned that survival means 2 things, strength and solidarity. We protect our own, and anyone who asks for protection becomes our own. That's beautiful," Nessa whispered, "and terrifying." "Good." Jace met her eyes, and for the first time she saw something beyond the warrior, something vulnerable. "You should be a little afraid of us, but never doubt that we're on your side." Her skin flushed with color, a Galathi response to complex emotions. Before she could speak, alarms blared throughout the facility. Captain Rin Marks's voice crackled over the comm. "Commander, we've got incoming." Drex fleet just entered atmosphere. "Looks like General Vex is done playing careful." Jace's expression shifted instantly back to cold focus. "Battle stations. Nessa, get to the shelter." "No." The word surprised her as much as him. "I want to help." "Teach me." He studied her for a heartbeat, then nodded curtly. "Stay close then, and do exactly what I say." As they ran toward the command center, Nessa realized that everything she'd believed about mercy, about peace, about civilization itself, was about to be tested. The humans weren't offering the gentle aid her people had imagined. They were offering fire and blood and survival, and somehow, watching Jace prepare for battle with grim determination, Nessa found herself grateful for exactly that. Fire and steel, the sky above Valoria burned. Drex warships descended through the clouds like falling stars, their weapons turning the night into artificial day. Nessa crouched beside Commander Jace Holt in the reinforced command bunker, her hands trembling as explosions shook the walls. Through the observation windows, she watched humanity's answer to overwhelming force. It was magnificent and terrible. Rail cannon batteries. "Fire at will," Jace ordered, his voice calm despite the chaos. "Marks, take your squadron through that gap in their formation. Target their command carrier." "Copy that, boss." Captain Rin Marks's voice came through the comm with a wildness that made Nessa shiver. "Let's show these bastards how Deathworlders fly." The human fighters launched from hidden positions, sleek and deadly. They didn't fly in careful formations like Galathi ships. They dove and weaved through enemy fire with reckless precision, each pilot trusting the others absolutely. Nessa watched one fighter barely avoid a plasma blast, roll inverted, and destroy 2 Drex gunships in a single pass. How are they doing that? She breathed. Practice. Dr. Mira Solon appeared beside her, carrying medical supplies. And growing up on a world where everything wants to kill you teaches excellent reflexes. You should see them in atmosphere storms. Another explosion, closer this time. The bunker lights flickered. Jace was instantly on the comm. Damage report. East wall breach, someone responded. Drex ground forces incoming. Lieutenant Rivers, take second platoon. Show them what close combat looks like. Jace glanced at Nessa. You might want to look away. She didn't. She watched the display as human soldiers met Drex warriors in the ruined streets. The Drex were larger, armored, bred for conquest. But the humans fought with a ferocity that defied logic, using the terrain, their environment, turning every piece of rubble into a weapon. They didn't fight to win glory. They fought to survive, and that made them unstoppable. A Drex bombardment struck near the medical station. Mira cursed and grabbed her kit. I need to get to the wounded. It's not safe, Nessa protested. Mira smiled grimly. When is it ever? She disappeared into the chaos. Jace was coordinating 3 battles simultaneously, his hands moving across displays, his voice never rising despite the disaster unfolding around them. Nessa found herself mesmerized by his focus. This was what humans meant by mercy, not gentle words, but absolute dedication to protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. Commander. The tactical officer's voice cracked with urgency. Vex's flagship is targeting the civilian shelters. If that beam weapon fires, I see it. Jace's expression went cold as ice. Marks, I need you to make an impossible shot. My favorite kind, Rin responded. What are we breaking? That flagship's main cannon. You've got maybe 30 seconds before it charges. Plenty of time. There was a pause. Then Rin's voice again, quieter. Jace, if I don't make it, you'll make it. You always do. Nessa watched the display, her breath caught. Rin's fighter was a speck against the massive Drex flagship, weaving through defensive fire that would have vaporized any normal pilot. 20 seconds. 15. The flagship's weapon began to glow. Come on, Jace whispered, his controlled facade cracking for just a moment. 10 seconds. Rin's fighter rolled, dove, came up underneath the flagship's hull. Her missiles launched at point-blank range, striking the cannon's power coupling. The explosion was spectacular, a chain reaction that tore through the flagship's systems, leaving it dead in space. Scratch one dreadnought, Rin announced, breathing hard. How's that for impossible? The command center erupted in cheers. Even Jace smiled, relief flooding his features. He caught Nessa staring, and something passed between them. Understanding, respect. Something deeper that neither was ready to name. The Drex are retreating, the tactical officer reported, disbelief in his voice. General Vex is calling for withdrawal. Jace activated the comm to all forces. Pursue and destroy their ground forces. I want them off this planet permanently. Show them what happens when you threaten people under Earth's protection. As the battle turned to rout, Nessa finally understood. Human mercy wasn't passive. It wasn't kind words or gentle negotiations. It was the absolute promise that anyone who threatened innocence would face overwhelming, uncompromising violence. It was mercy through strength. Protection through fear, peace through victory. The bunker shook one final time as a Drex cruiser crashed into the wasteland beyond the city. In the sudden relative quiet, Jace turned to Nessa, and she saw exhaustion in his eyes. The weight of command, of decisions that cost lives. Without thinking, she reached out and took his hand. His skin was warm, scarred, human. He looked surprised, but didn't pull away. Thank you, she whispered, for teaching us what mercy really means. He squeezed her hand gently. The fight's not over yet. I know, Nessa said, holding his gaze. But for the first time since the Drex arrived, I believe we might survive. Outside, the fires of battle began to fade. Inside, something new was beginning to burn. The heart between worlds. The reconstruction of Valoria's capital moved faster than anyone had thought possible. Human engineers worked alongside Kalathi builders, their different approaches, practical brutality meeting elegant design, creating something neither species would have achieved alone. Nessa spent her days coordinating between her people and Earth's forces, but her evenings increasingly belonged to Commander Jace Holt. They met on the observation deck as Valoria's twin moons rose over the healing city. Jace had shed his armor for simple fatigues, looking less like a warrior and more like a man carrying too much responsibility. Nessa brought wine from her people's stores, something that had survived the bombardment. "We call it starlight," she said, pouring 2 glasses. The liquid shimmered with bioluminescence. "It's supposed to celebrate new beginnings." Jace accepted the glass, their fingers brushing. The contact sent warmth through Nessa's skin, her bioluminescence brightening involuntarily. He noticed, one eyebrow raising slightly. "Your people glow when they feel strongly," he observed. "What emotion is that?" "Interest," she admitted, feeling bold. "Among other things." His smile was genuine this time. Not the warrior's grim expression, but something softer. "I've noticed you too, Nessa Varian. Hard not to when you insisted on staying in the command center during an orbital bombardment. Someone had to make sure you didn't destroy my entire planet saving it." She teased, then grew serious. "Dr. Solon told me about Earth's history. Your world wars, your struggles. How did you survive so much violence?" Jace leaned against the railing, staring at the stars. "By learning that strength without compassion makes you a monster, and compassion without strength makes you a victim. We walked that line for centuries, failing more often than we succeeded." He looked at her. "Your people might have found a better way, if you'd been given the chance. Without you, we wouldn't have had any chance at all." Nessa moved closer, close enough to feel his warmth. "I was terrified when you arrived. You were everything we'd been taught to fear. Warriors, weapons, violence. But you're also protectors, healers, builders." "We're complicated," Jace admitted. His hand found hers. "War doesn't make us happy, Nessa. It just makes us good at surviving. Given the choice, most of us would prefer what your people had. Peace, art, beauty. Maybe we can build that together," she whispered. "After this is over." "About that." Jace's expression darkened. "Lieutenant Rivers intercepted Drek's communications. Vex isn't giving up. He's requested reinforcements, a full battle group. They'll be here within a week." Fear spiked through Nessa, but Jace squeezed her hand. "Hey, look at me. We've beaten them twice. We'll do it again. And if you can't, then we make sure your people are evacuated to safety first." His voice was steady, absolute. "That's not negotiable." Nessa felt tears gathering. "You'd sacrifice everything for us?" "Not everything." Jace cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing away a tear that glowed softly. "But I'd risk a lot. That's what soldiers do." The space between them seemed to shrink. Nessa had never been this close to a human before. Never felt this pull toward anyone. Jace's eyes asked a question and she answered by closing the distance. Their kiss was gentle at first, tentative, 2 different species learning each other. Then it deepened, Nessa's bioluminescence flaring bright enough to cast shadows. When they finally parted, both were breathing hard. "That was," Jace started. "Worth surviving for," Nessa finished. They stood together under the twin moons, holding each other as the city lights flickered on below. Dr. Mira found them there an hour later, her knowing smile breaking the spell. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, not sounding sorry at all. "But High Speaker Uranus wants to meet with both of you. And Jace, Rivers needs you in tactical. We've got new intel on Vex's battle group." Jace nodded, professional mask sliding back into place. But before he left, he kissed Nessa's forehead gently. "To be continued?" "Absolutely," she promised. In the tactical center, Lieutenant Cade Rivers, a scarred veteran with kind eyes, spread out the intelligence data. "It's bad, Commander. Vex isn't just bringing reinforcements. He's bringing the Hammer of Dominion, their flagship. It's got firepower to crack a planet. Then we don't let it get that chance," Jace said calmly. "We hit them in transit, break their formation before they can organize." "That's suicide," Cade protested. "We're outnumbered 10-1. We've faced worse odds." Jace looked around the room at his officers, at Nessa, at High Speaker Uranus, who'd entered quietly. "The Dreks think overwhelming force wins wars. They're wrong. Determination wins wars. Willingness to sacrifice wins wars. And we've got both." Uranus spoke for the first time, his aged voice carrying unexpected steel. "The Kalathi will fight beside you. You've shown us that peace must sometimes be defended with strength." "We're ready to learn," Jace nodded respect. "Then we prepare together. 1 week until they arrive. 1 week to become what we need to be." Nessa caught his eye across the room. In 1 week everything would be decided, survival or destruction, victory or death. But looking at Jace, at the humans who'd traveled across stars to answer a stranger's cry, At her own people finding courage they didn't know they had, she felt something unexpected. Hope and love, burning bright as starlight. A new dawn. The final battle began at dawn. The Drex battle group emerged from faster-than-light travel like a nightmare made manifest. Dozens of warships led by the massive Hammer of Dominion, a vessel so large it cast shadows across Valoria's moon. On the surface, Nessa stood with High Speaker Uranus and thousands of Calathi civilians, watching the sky fill with the promise of destruction. But they weren't alone anymore. The United Earth Fleet rose to meet the enemy, smaller ships moving with deadly grace. And alongside them, painted with the symbols of both Earth and Valoria, flew newly retrofitted Calathi vessels crewed by volunteers who'd spent the week learning humanity's brutal lessons about war. In the command ship, Commander Jace Holt studied the tactical display with the calm that had become legendary. Captain Rin Marks was already in her fighter, leading the first strike wing. Dr. Mira Solon coordinated medical teams on the surface and in orbit. Lieutenant Cade Rivers commanded the defensive positions protecting the civilian evacuations. All ships report ready, the communications officer announced. Jace activated the fleet-wide channel. This is Commander Holt. The enemy thinks numbers win battles. They're wrong. Hearts win battles. Courage wins battles. Today we fight not for territory or resources. We fight because someone asked for help and we answered. We fight because mercy means protecting the innocent with everything we have. Show them what that means. Show them what humanity means. The channel erupted with acknowledgments. Human voices, Calathi voices, united in purpose. Jace caught sight of Nessa on the ground feed, her bioluminescence bright with determination, and allowed himself one moment of personal fear. If they failed, he'd never see her again. Then the Hammer of Dominion opened fire, and there was no more time for feelings. The battle was chaos incarnate. Drex numbers crashed against human tactics and Calathi desperation. Rin's fighters weaved through impossible fire patterns, their pilots laughing death in the face. Human railguns tore through Drex shields while Calathi ships, slower but more maneuverable, exploited every gap the humans created. On the ground, Nessa coordinated evacuation routes as debris began falling from orbit. A Drex landing craft crashed near the civilian center and armored soldiers poured out. But Calathi volunteers trained by humans met them with weapons and newfound ferocity. They fought for their homes, their children, their future. They fought like warriors. In orbit, General Vex grew increasingly furious. This weak species should have broken. Instead, they resisted with unthinkable determination. He ordered the Hammer to target the planet directly. If he couldn't conquer Valoria, he'd destroy it. Flagship charging main weapon, the tactical officer reported. Impact in 2 minutes. Jace made a decision that would haunt or define him. All ships concentrate fire on the Hammer. Everything we have, now. But Commander, Cade protested, that'll leave our flanks exposed. Do it. Every human ship, every Calathi vessel, every drone and missile and railgun round focused on the massive flagship. The Hammer's shields flickered under the impossible bombardment, but they held. 90 seconds. Rin's voice crackled through the comm. Jace, I've got an idea. You're going to hate it. I already hate it. Tell me anyway. I can get inside their shields, use my ship as a kinetic missile, target their weapon core. No. The word was instant, absolute. It's the only way. You know it is. Rin's voice softened. It's been an honor, Commander. Rin. But Captain Rin Marks was already diving toward the Hammer, her fighter's engines burning at maximum. She weaved through defensive fire with the skill of a lifetime's practice, got beneath the shields, and aimed straight for the glowing weapon port. Tell everyone, she said quietly, that it was worth it. Her fighter struck the Hammer's core at relativistic speed. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface, a new star born and dying in seconds. The flagship broke apart, its pieces drifting like ash. The Drex fleet, seeing their greatest weapon destroyed, their general dead, finally broke. They fled into faster than light, leaving only debris and silence. The battle was over. On the surface, Nessa heard the cheers begin. Calathi and humans embraced, celebrating survival. She found Jace on the command deck hours later, alone, staring at the wreckage in orbit. We won, she said softly. At a cost. His voice was hollow. Rin, 12 other pilots, 37 soldiers. They all had families, friends, futures. Nessa took his hand, her bioluminescence dim with shared grief. They gave us our future, all of us. That matters. Jace pulled her close, and for the first time since Earth arrived, she felt him tremble. Not with fear, but with the release of impossible tension. She held him as he mourned, as he let himself be human rather than commander. I can't stay forever, he finally whispered. Earth needs us elsewhere. There will be other calls for help. I know. Nessa looked up at him, her eyes bright. But I'm coming with you. If humanity's mission is answering those who cry for help, then Valoria will stand beside you. We've learned that mercy and strength aren't opposites, they're partners. High Speaker Oranus appeared in the doorway. The Council has voted unanimously. Valoria formally requests membership in Earth's alliance. We will answer calls together now. Jace straightened, wiping his eyes, becoming the commander again. Then welcome to the coalition, High Speaker. It won't be easy. Nothing worthwhile is, Oranus replied with a slight smile. But thanks to you, we understand that now. In the weeks that followed, Valoria transformed. Human and Calathi engineers built a joint military academy. Memorials rose for the fallen, bearing names in both languages. And everywhere the story spread across the stars, the tale of how humanity had answered a desperate call and taught a peaceful species that mercy could wear armor. On the day the Earth fleet prepared to depart, Nessa stood with Jace watching the preparations. Will you come back? She asked. As often as I can, he kissed her gently. And you'll be out there with us, helping others like we helped you. That's the promise, Nessa. No one fights alone anymore. She touched the new insignia on her uniform, Earth and Valoria intertwined. When I sent that distress signal, I thought we were calling for salvation. What did you get instead? Something better. Nessa smiled, her bioluminescence bright as dawn. We got allies who taught us that mercy isn't weakness. It's the courage to fight for those who can't fight for themselves. It's the strength to stand between darkness and light. And love, she finished, squeezing his hand. Even between stars, even between species. Especially between them. As the Earth fleet lifted into orbit, Calathi ships rose alongside them, the first of many joint missions to come. The galaxy would learn a new truth. When someone cried for help, the answer came with both compassion and fire. Humanity had defined mercy differently than the universe expected, and the universe was better for it.